we may start the final session of this afternoon, and I have the honor to invite Professor Hatem Al-Karansawi, who is the founding dean of the faculty of the Qatar Faculty of Islamic Studies. Please, Professor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلاة وسلاما وبركة على سيدنا محمد خير الخلائق وخاتم المرسلين. الحضور الكريم، سلام الله عليكم ورحمته وبركاته. Is the translation ready? Or shall I speak in English? Not ready? Ready? Okay. Fine, while they get ready, let me welcome you all. We say good afternoon, everyone, and peace be upon you all. And this is a greeting of Muslims that we always greet with peace. So hopefully we have a peaceful, successful conference for you, or symposium, and a peaceful and successful stay in Qatar, and whenever your destinations after that. طلب مني أن أتحدث عن الجانب موقف المسلم من المنشطات وقضية المنشطات والقضية الأخلاقية في هذا. وفي حقيقة الأمر ترددت في البداية أن أقبل الحديث في هذا الموضوع، ولعلي أذكر أنني لست فقيها ولا متفقها. I'm not a religious scholar, I'm not a jurisprudence expert. ولهذا كان التردد. لكن آثرت أن أتحدث إليكم أولا لأهمية الموضوع، ولأنني تصورت أنه واجب علينا كمسلمين، وفي هذا أعتقد أن المبادئ الإسلامية تعكس كافة مبادئ الأديان الأخرى. دعني أركز حديثي في نقاط ثلاث. النقطة الأولى هي الإنجاز والتفوق، وهل هو مطلوب من المسلم؟ مطلوب من المسلم كما هو مطلوب ربما من أتباع أي عقيدة أو دين أن يتفوق في كل المجالات، أن يبذل كل جهده ليحقق الإنجاز، والإنجاز له متعته. لا شيء يعادل بالنسبة للرياضي متعة التتويج في المركز الأول أو الثاني، الميدالية الذهبية أو الفضية. لا شيء يعادل بالنسبة للطالب التفوق والحصول على مجالات التكريم في العمل في أي مجال. الإنجاز في أي شيء لا شك أنه له متعة وسعادة، ولكن كما نعلم لكل شيء ثمن. فما هو الثمن الذي يتعين علينا أن ندفعه في تحقيق هذا الإنجاز؟ هذا السؤال. علمنا أن المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف، وفي كل الخير لم يغبط حق أحد، لكن المؤمن القوي قوي في كل المجالات، في الرياضة، في العلوم، في العمل إلى آخره. إذن لن نختلف على أهمية التفوق، على أهمية إنجاز، على أهمية أن نبذل ما استطعنا من جهد في سبيل تحقيق ذلك. هذه النقطة الأولى أعتقد أننا لن نختلف عليها، وهذه طبيعة بشرية يحفزها الإيمان والعقيدة، ولكن طبيعة البشر كلنا نحب أن نكون متفوقين ومتميزين. أنتقل إلى النقطة الثانية التي أعتقد أنها محور حديثنا الرئيسي. ما هي مسؤولية الإنسان المسلم بصفة عامة؟ الإنسان المسلم مطالب بأن يحفظ دينه وعقله وجسده، إلى جانب أشياء أخرى، لكن دعني أركز على هذه الثلاثة: الدين والعقل والجسد. وفي سبيل ذلك يتجه الدارسون والفقهاء والمشرعون إلى درجات تبدأ من الكراهة وتنتهي بالتحريم، أو تبدأ من التجنب ثم الكراهة ثم التحريم، لكل ما من شأنه أن يسبب الضرر الواضح للدين، العقيدة الدينية أو العقل أو الجسد. وعلمنا أن لبدنك عليك حق. طيب، هذه واحدة. المسلم أيضا مطالب بمجموعة من الالتزامات السلوكية في كل مجالات حياته، سواء كان هذا في تنافس رياضي، سواء كان هذا في دراسة، سواء كان هذا في تعامل بيع وشراء، في علاقة الزوج والزوجة، الأب والأبناء، في كل علاقاتنا هناك قواعد سلوكية حاكمة لكل أمورنا، رغم أن كما ذكرت وأعيد فأكرر أن التنافس والمنافسة مطلوبة والتفوق فيها مطلوب، والرياضة أمرنا بها وعلمنا كما ورد في الأثر أبناءكم السباحة والرماية وركوب الخيل، وعلمنا وعرفنا أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يسابق ويصارع يعني ويركب الخيل، فيعني لن هناك مجال لتأكيد إعادة تأكيد هذا. لكن كما ذكرت أننا مطالبون سلوكيا بأن نحفظ ديننا وعقلنا وجسدنا وما لنا إلى آخر المقاصد التي نعرفها جميعا. ما هي الالتزامات السلوكية إذن التي يجب؟ أول هذه الالتزامات مشتق من اسم الله سبحانه وتعالى العدل. المطلوب من المسلم أن يكون عادلا. العدل قيمة مطلقة، والله سبحانه وتعالى نفى عن نفسه الظلم وأمرنا ألا نظلم. إذن العدل هذه قيمة مهمة، وعدم الظلم. القيمة الثانية الأمانة. المسلم مطالب بأن يكون أمينا مع نفسه، مطالب بأن يكون أمينا مع أهله، مطالب بأن يكون أمينا مع ولده، مطالب أن يكون أمينا مع من يتعامل معهم، مع جاره، مع مجتمعه، مع دولته. القيمة الأخرى الصدق، ونقيضها الكذب وعدم الكذب. ولعل في قصة جامع الأحاديث الذي سافر بلادا وبلادا ونحن نعرف مشقات السفر، وذهب إلى من قيل له أنه رجل يحفظ حديثا عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم، فتوجه إليه، وأخيرا وجده قيل له أنه في حقله يزرع أو يحصد أو أيا ما كان يمارس مهنته في الفلاحة، فتوجه إليه وهو سعيد بأنه وصل إلى مبتغاه ليأخذ العلم عن هذا الرجل. فاستأذنه الرجل لكي يريح دابته، سواء كانت حمارا أو ثورا، وأشار للدابة بكيس فارغ، بحيث تصورت الدابة أن فيه غذاء لها، فانصاعت الدابة واتجهت إليه، وكان الكيس فارغا فربطه. فعاد الباحث المسلم دون أن يأخذ الحديث، أنه قال: إذا كان هذا يخدع دابته فلن أخذ عنه شيئا. قيمة الصدق حتى مع الحيوان، ويمكن أن يتجه إليها بالقوة ويربطها، لكنه خدعها، إذن لديه الاستعداد لأن يخدع. هذا كان كافيا للباحث المسلم أن يتجنب أن يأخذ عنه الحديث. عدم الغش، والأمر ليس فيه مجال لمناقشة أو اجتهاد أو تنبؤ. من غشنا فليس منا. الغش قيمة أساسية، عدم الغش قيمة أساسية من سلوكيات المسلم في كل شيء. الخداع تحدثت عنه، الرجل الذي خدع دبته، وعدم الغرر أو التغرير بالآخرين. لا يجوز أبدا أن تغرر بالآخرين، والغرر يبطل العقود حتى لو وافق الطرفان، لكن لو كان فيه غرر يبطل العقد. إذن هذه قيم، مجموعة من القيم السلوكية الأساسية. قد يلتزم بعضنا بها، قد نلتزم ببعض منها ونتجنب، لكن هذا لا ينفي أنها قيم مطلقة. وكما ذكرت أنني في مطالعاتي في كثير من أصول الأديان السماوية الأخرى أعتقد أنها إرث مشترك، لأنها كلها من نبع واحد، سواء كان ما يتعلق بالعدل، سواء كان يتعلق بالأمانة، سواء كان ما يتعلق، إذا نظرنا للوصايا العشر، ولا أريد أن أحول المسألة إلى محاضرة دينية. طيب، في صراعنا العادي في الحياة، سواء كان لاكتساب العيش أو للتنافس الرياضي أو للتنافس الدراسي أو إلى آخره، كيف نطبق هذه القيم؟ وهناك الكثير من الأشياء قد يلتبس علينا الأمر، وهناك كما علمنا هناك متشابهات، ورغم أن الحلال بين والحرام بين، لكن متشابهات كثيرة جدا. هل هناك من طريقة تسهل علينا أن نتبين الأمر دون أن نلجأ بالضرورة في كل مرة إلى من يفتينا؟ علينا أن نستفتي إذا استشكل علينا الأمر وكان الأمر عويصا، لكن القرآن علمنا قاعدة أساسية أعتقد أنها هامة جدا في سلوكياتنا، وأن ربما ترتبط مباشرة بموضوعنا. لن نختلف، ومعي خبراء يعني أستحي أن أتحدث أمامهم، لا شك أن المنشطات بكل أنواعها، إذا كانت منشطات لمن يريد أن يسهر لمزيدا من التحصيل، منشطات لتنمية العضلات مؤقتا إلى آخره، لها فوائد لا شك، وإلا نخدع أنفسنا، ولهذا الناس تستخدمها، هي لها فوائد. هل هذا مبرر لاستخدامها؟ نعود إلى الآية القرآنية التي تحدثت عن الخمر والميسر. هل هناك من ينكر أن الخمر والميسر محرمان في الإسلام؟ ولكن عندما علمنا القرآن تحدث عن هذا، قال ماذا؟ فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس. لم ينفي أن فيها منافع، فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس. إن قد يأتي من يقول يعني الخمر يا أخي تعطينا نشوة وسعادة، ومع اللحم المشوي يكون طعمها لذيذ، والميسر نحن نكسب ونثرى. يعني هناك منافع، وهناك من يعمل بها ويبيع ويتاجر ويشتري، فهذه منافع. فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس، وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما، لكن بقاعدة التوازن. وأعود إلى مهنتي الأصلية كاقتصادي ومالي لأتحدث عن التكلفة والعائد. هناك تكلفة وهناك عائد. في هذه الحالة علمنا أنها إذا كانت التكلفة، إذا كان الضرر يتجاوز المصلحة، فعلينا بدءا من التجنب إلى الحرمة، وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. اتضحت المسألة أن هناك ميزان نستطيع أن ننظر به إلى الأشياء، وألا نخادع أنفسنا. وكما ذكرت أن القيم المطلقة بما فيها خداع النفس أو غش النفس، لأن ممكن أن نخدع أنفسنا. يا أخي هذا المنشط أنا سأخذه لهذه الليلة أو في فترة الامتحانات، ويعني خلاص ونستفيد وتعدي الأمور. يعني لا، التوازن القاعدة موجودة، وكما أقولها نصا قرآنيا. أين المنشطات من كل هذا؟ وأنا أشكر لدعوتي، يعني أشكر الدعوة الكريمة لهذا، لأن أنا يعني حاولت أن أطلع، الحمد لله كنت بعيدا عن هذا المجال، فحاولت أن أطلع عما كتب في المنشطات وعن غيرها، ويعني في حدود الخبراء وهم موجودون. أعتقد أن هناك فيما قرأت، وصححوني إذا كنت أخطأت، أن تأثير المنشطات كله تأثير مؤقت، ليس التأثير الإيجابي، ليس من تأثير إيجابي دائم. إنها لو كانت لها تأثير إيجابي دائم، أعتقد، وصححوني أرجو، ربما أتعلم منكم، ستدخل في باب المكملات الغذائية أو في باب يعني، وليس في باب المنشطات، إذا كانت تسهم كتأثير دائم للإنسان. إذن النقطة الأولى أن تأثيرها ليس دائما، لكن على الجانب الآخر أن التأثير الدائم يتعلق بالناتج السلبي على الجسد، المنشطات العضلية وما إليها تأثيرها الدائم في تدمير الجسد. وهناك عندما يعني تصفحت من باب التعلم على الإنترنت، هناك قوائم بأسماء الرياضيين الذين دمرتهم المنشطات. إذن التأثير السلبي أكبر، هناك تأثير إيجابي مؤقت وتأثير سلبي يقين. والتأثير المؤقت حتى ليس بمتيقن، لكنه التأثير السلبي يقين وموجود، سواء كان على الحيوان في الخيل أو على الإنسان. هل هذا يتفق إذا سلمنا بهذا علميا وطبيا وكما ذكرت في حدود ما هو منشور وموثق قائم؟ هل هذا يتفق مع التزام المسلم بالحفاظ على جسده؟ أم أن هذا يدخل في باب تدمير الجسد؟ المنشطات بعضها يؤثر على العقل، والصدمات ويعني ما التروما وما إليها التي تحدث للبعض نفسيا نتيجة الشحن الكبير، ثم يعني الصدمة بعدم الإنجاز وما إليه. ولأن الآمال بتبنى على أن المنشط سيمكننا، ثم تأتي الرياح ما لا تشتهي السفن، فيحدث هذا التدمير النفسي. أليس مخالفا تماما لما أمرنا بالحفاظ عليه؟ الحفاظ على الجسد، الحفاظ على النفس، الحفاظ على العقل، إنها تذهب العقل. هل يا ترى استخدام المنشطات وإذا تجاوزنا عن آثارها، قد يعني ينافح البعض ويقول جربت المنشطات ولم تؤدي إلى تأثير وأنا أراعي الكميات وأخذها بانتظام إلى آخره، هل يا ترى يتفق هذا مع ما طلب من المسلم من عدم الظلم؟ إذا تجاوزنا عن ظلم النفس، لأنه يظلم نفسه كما ذكرنا بتدمير جسده أو بتدمير نفسيته أو عقله، لكن ألا يظلم الآخرين؟ هؤلاء الذين التزموا بالعمل الجاد، سواء كان بمذاكرة جادة وعمل طول العام للتفوق في الامتحان، أو التزموا بالتدريبات المنتظمة والشاقة واتباع تعليمات المدرب وبناء عضلاتهم وقدراتهم الرياضية في المجال والتكنيك وما إليه، ثم يأتي أحدهم بمنشط ما ليقفز على منصة التتويج، ألم يظلم الآخرين؟ إذن هو هنا مخالف مرة أخرى لقاعدة أساسية: إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي، سبحانه وتعالى كما علمنا أني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته محرما عليكم فلا تظلموا. إذن هو يخالف أمر صريح وواضح. هل يا ترى وهنا إذن وقعنا في ضرر الجسد وضرر النفس ومخالفة مقاصد الشرع، وقعنا في ظلم الآخرين بالإضافة إلى ظلم النفس. هل يتفق هذا؟ هل يتفق استخدامها مع الأمانة؟ هل من الأمانة أن تقدم وتحاول أن تحصل على شيء ليس من حقك؟ هذه خيانة للأمانة، لأنها أنت تمنت على أنك تنافس منافسة شريفة، لكنك تخون الأمانة أو تخوني الأمانة في محاولة للحصول على ما ليس لك. لا أريد أن أصل بها أنها سرقة الإنجاز في حقيقة الأمر، لكنها في حدها الأدنى خيانة للأمانة، وفي حدها الأقصى سرقة واضحة، لا تأخذ ما ليس لك بحق، لا تسرق حق الآخرين. إذن هذه مخالفة للأمانة. وأمرنا أيضا أن نكون أمناء. إذن أنت عندما تستخدم أو عندما تستخدم المنشطات فأنت تفعل كل هذا وتخالف ما طلب منا، سواء من مقاصد أصلية للشرع أو ما طلب منا من سلوكيات من أجل تحقيق إنجاز. هل هذا الثمن عندما يخسر الإنسان نفسه يوازي هذا؟ كما ورد عن أقوال السيد المسيح: ماذا يكسب الإنسان ماذا يحدث الإنسان لو كسب العالم وخسر نفسه؟ هل هذا ثمن يستحق أن ندفعه لتحقيق إنجاز، وإنجاز مؤقت ونعاني منه بعد ذلك، بئس الثمن الذي يدفع، خاصة أن هناك البديل، وهو العمل الجاد، سواء في مضمار التدريب أو إتقان التكنيك أو إلى آخره، أو المنافسة، أو بالاستعداد الجيد للمجال الذي تدخل فيه. هل هذا يتفق مع القاعدة التي علمناها الإثم في المقارنة بين الإثم والنفع؟ الإثم واضح، أنك تخالف ما أمرنا به، تخالف ما طلب منا، تخالف أشياء كثيرة من أساسيات ومن قيم سلوكية وقيم إيمانية أصيلة في مقابل تحقيق منفعة. الإثم هنا واضح والضرر هنا واضح، فكيف نشعر بالسلام مع النفس ونحن نطبق العكس؟ إثمهما أكبر من نفعهما لكننا نتجه إلى الإثم. ربما سأختم بما كان يفترض البعض أن أبدأ به، قضية الحرام والحلال. هناك فتاوى واضحة وكثيرة في هذا المجال، وبعضها فصل كثيرا في حرمة استخدام هذا المنشطات بكل أنواعها، وجانب كبير من هذه الفتاوى استند على عنصر الضرر، وما هو يسبب الضرر للإنسان فهو أمرنا بحده الأدنى أن نتجنبه وبحده الأقصى أن نحرمه. وكثير من الأمور تقاس على هذا كالمخدرات وغيرها التي يرد فيها نص صريح أو نص واضح. هل بعد هذا هناك يعني مجال لأن نتحدث عن أن استخدام المنشطات لا يخالف قواعد إيمانية أو قواعد دينية أصيلة؟ أعتقد أن الأمر، أو أرجو أن يكون الأمر واضحا أمامنا، وأعتقد أنه من المطلوب أن يكون أحد المداخل لتوعية الناس من الشباب بالذات بهذا. ربما يتبنى هذا المدخل، أقترح عليكم وأنتم أهل الخبرة والعلم والفضل في هذا المجال. أرجو أن أكون قد التزمت بالوقت، وأشكر لكم مرة أخرى دعوتي لمشاركتكم، وأشكر لكم أن أتحتم لي الفرصة أن أطلع على مجال لم يكن لي فيه سابق اطلاع، وبالتالي يعني لم يشكرني من لم يشكر من أجريت النعمة على يديه، فأنتم أنعمتم علي بأنني تعلمت شيئا جديدا ومختلفا. وأعتذر لأننا لم أتمكن من مشاركة في يومي المؤتمر لارتباطات عديدة، بعضها كان مجدولا مثل تخرج المدينة التعليمية وعلينا أن نكون موجودون هناك، وظروف أخرى جدت، لكن أكرر الشكر مرة أخرى، وسلام الله عليكم ورحمته وبركاته.
I would like to ask you, Professor, to stay for a few minutes in the floor, and if there are any questions from the audience. I have one.
Sure.
And we know from ancient Greece that sports events were very closely related to religious events, and the sports events, let's say, were created because humans would like to have something like a perfection.
Yeah.
So they are looking to the gods to look for perfection, and that's why the idea of sport was generated. In the modern times now, we see that sports are totally separated, isolated from religious, and also religions are totally separated from sports. Can you see, let's say, a potential that we can bring these two words closer for the benefit of both? Because from the ancient Greek, let's say, philosophy, this seems to be feasible.
Well, thank you. Yes, of course I agree with you that in the Greek mythology, I mean, the sports events was created so to show either the competition between gods and the humans, or between supporters of each god and or believers in each god, so they can compete and prove that their god is the more successful and the best and so on. And it was motivating, of course. I mean, when things are connected to the belief, it gives a motivation and makes sacrifice has a meaning into it. Let me speak for what I know about the Muslim or Islamic religion in relation to sports. And well, as probably I started by saying that we have a clear directive that the strong Muslim or the believer, that's exactly the exact translation, is the strong believer is better than the weak believer. Each of them has his role, but and for that, as I said, we also have in our tradition that they have been instructed to the best of my knowledge by Khalifa Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Khalifa, is to teach our boys, kids, swimming, arching, and horse riding. 3 sports. Yes, they might be, at least one of them may be related to fighting, but still it's a sport. Swimming and horse riding, it can be used in the sport, it can be used. And because we know horses has a special place in our tradition, and that horses has al-khayr, has a blessing in its roses, so we have a special place to keep it. So that's 2 elements that have been in sports, have been instructed to follow. This is number 1. Number 2, that again we have been kept for us and documented and everything, that the Prophet ﷺ have witnessed and encouraged the sporting events. That between the followers, and he used to watch the sports competition among the followers when the Ahbash they're playing with, they have their own sports events, and he used to watch it and bring even his wife to watch. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha to watch also with him. That's number 2. Number 3, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, he was engaged in a competition in Musara'a wrestling, am I right? Okay, in wrestling, was a very famous, there was a famous wrestler, so it's sport, and he used to compete. And it is known that the Prophet ﷺ wrestled with him 3 times. Some people say 2, some people say, but anyway, it's definite, there's no dispute about it, that he wrestled with him. And he defeated him. That's he was known to be, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a wonderful horse rider, and he used to race on the horse without a saddle. So he was trained, and he was actually encouraging the training. So we have a number of documented, fixed things that, and if we leave that and go to the other objectives of the Sharia, as I mentioned, some of them that we have been told that your body has a right on you. So we have to look to our body. We have to, so we shouldn't destroy this body. We should preserve it and try to improve it. Sports is one way. Yes, competition is the ultimate of that. But if how to keep your body in good health? Okay, you don't eat bad, and again, eating habits and so on. But essential part of that is by training and by going to various types of sport that would correspond to each one. So again, we have been ordered by that, and this is that inna libadanika alayka haqqan. Your body has a right on you, and you have to keep it, to give everyone his right. That's where I said that's a Muslim's obligation in his behavior. Has to be fair and honest, even to himself and to his body. The same goes for the mental health. Again, we are supposed to avoid anything that would destroy our mental health. And one way to keep a good mental health is to keep a healthy body. So yes, we can. We can. We have a lot, as a matter of fact, that we can re-link the values, the great value of sports, which is welcomed and respected by all human beings, or healthy-minded human beings, as a matter of fact. to our Islamic values. And that would enhance a lot of things in our field.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed, please. Sorry. I'm sorry. More questions?
دكتور الله يبارك فيك. الله يخليك.
كلمة بسيطة شكرا.
لا الله يبارك فيك، شكرا جزيلا. الله يخليك، انا اللي شاكر. الله يخليك، شكرا. الله يخليك. المهم ما يكونش فيها منشطات. لا.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So for the last two presentations, I would like to invite Professor Mahafza, and I would like to invite Dr. Vidya. Please come. And for the last two presentations, please.
From where, Church? Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank Qatar Anti-Doping Lab for the invitation. And I would second, like to add a comment about this presentation, which sports drinks and energy drinks and their relation to threats to public health. This is a vast subject. And I thank the organizing committee for allowing me to learn about this topic. And so there. I did. It is not working.
No, it's not. This is a microphone.
Yeah. So this is the. Okay. Okay. Sport drinks and energy drinks are two different categories of beverage. They are significantly different in composition and in purpose of use, yet they are frequently used interchangeably to mean the same thing, although the difference is remarkable between the two. And sport drinks aim to replenish water and electrolytes associated with exercise, whereas energy drinks contain substances that act as stimulants, such as caffeine, which enhance the performance of athletes. And these drinks have surpassed other food items as energy source. For example, they surpass pizza, which is famous food for the young, and over a period of 20 years, the calories consumed in the form of sugary beverages has increased by 60% among a very young age group, from 6 to 11, and the percentage of children consuming them rose from 79 to 91%. Almost every child consumes these beverages. And of course, that's the result of marketing campaigns where millions, billions of dollars actually are spent on promoting such items, especially targeting the youth, targeting the young, and in particular, the males, despite the fact that the consumption of these beverages has also increased among females. And Marketing strategies are different. Those utilized for sports drinks are different from those utilized for energy drinks. However, studies found that the beverage industry are 4 to 8 times more likely to show a finding favorable to the industry than independent funded studies, which shed doubt about these studies that are funded by the industry. And rigorous review and analysis of the literature revealed that caffeine and other stimulant substances that are the main components of energy drinks have place in the diet of children and adolescents. So they should not be allowed by any means. And frequent use of these, even if they don't benefit them, frequent use, if they don't harm, of these drinks would result in obesity and overweight. And this can predispose for diabetes mellitus and other diseases. Now, the market of these functional beverages in the States is shown in this slide, where energy drinks, which contain the stimulants, dominate the market. 63% of sales are of energy drinks in the States, whereas sport drinks 27%, and the nutraceutical drinks comprise 10% of the sales. The size of the market is huge. It's billions. That's over a 3 or 2 year period from 2010 to 2011. The sales doubled in the States for billions only for energy drinks. And there are certain types of energy drinks that I'll come to these later on, that are leading the market, like Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar. Now, the use and misuse of sports drinks and energy drinks have been under study, especially by children and adolescents, which is widespread and is growing. And adolescents consume these drinks for various reasons, sometimes for the taste, they have good taste, or for quench thirst and extra energy that's needed to improve sports performance. And adolescents, in many of the times, do not differentiate between sports and energy drinks, despite the significant difference. They regard them as similar drinks, and physically active children and adolescents and their parents are often unaware of the components and additional factors that are included in these drinks. However, a confusion about energy among the young people can lead to many unintentional outcomes by ingestion of these drinks. And the use of these drinks to replace fluid and electrolytes as sport drinks are used can lead to the unassociated or the associated adverse effects of such drinks. And the special concern among this is the use of large amounts of caffeine in those cases. So sport drinks are designed to replace fluids and electrolytes and to provide a rapid delivery of these drinks. Certain compulsion is recommended that contains 4 to 8% carbohydrates and 23 to 69 milligram per 100 ml of sodium. And for situations which require a high rate of delivery to muscles, it's recommended to have more than one type of sugar, and more than like fructose, glucose, etc. are needed. Now, replacement of electrolytes, especially sodium, is needed, and sodium can be lost in significant amounts after exercise, especially the prolonged and exercise. Now, proteins can be added in small amounts. 2% of proteins may be added, and it has been shown that by some studies that such drinks, when they contain proteins, can provide a better recovery. Now, the taste and the temperature of drinks is important. Good taste promotes the use. Cool fluids are preferred over heat-proof fluids, especially in cases where it's a hot temperature or heat is acquired as a consequence of exercise. Now, energy drinks are drinks that boost energy, that decrease feeling of tiredness, and that enhance mental alertness and concentration as compared to sport drinks. And the most common active substance in energy drinks is caffeine. But there are other substances like taurine, guarana, ginseng, carnitine, creatinine, ginkgo biloba, and vitamins. And the start of this industry dates back to 1987, so it's recent, when Red Bull was marketed in Austria, and then the commercial success of Red Bull resulted in the proliferation of these drinks in the market. And of course, rapid expansion of this was the result of marketing efforts by companies. And this slide shows the most important or the most commonly utilized energy drinks according to HHI index, which is the concentration of these, economic concentration of these drinks in the market. Caffeine is the major component of energy drinks. Majority of energy drinks contain caffeine, which is a stimulatory agent for the central nervous system, and it is also known to increase the secretion of epinephrine, which can lead to a variety of secondary metabolic changes that can positively affect the physical or mental performance of an individual. Once ingested, caffeine is rapidly metabolized from the GI tract, and then it has its effects. Many studies have confirmed the ability of caffeine to alter the mood and alertness of an individual, to promote or improve the exercise performance, awareness, attention, and the reaction time. And it's also shown to be associated with some of negative effects, the negative effects of the sleep, loss of sleep. Yani 1 cup of coffee can improve the condition of an athlete after a lack of sleep or after a night of no sleep. Now, the concentration of caffeine in the different types of energy drinks is shown in the slide. One should pay attention to the size of the can because they vary, but the highest concentration is present in the last one, but it is in 24 ounce. So if we divide by 8 parts, 1/3, which will be about 180 or less, and that's close to other types. So the caffeine concentration in the different drinks ranges from 80 or 8 to from 80s to about 120 per 8.4 ounce. Now, taurine is a sulfur-containing amino acid. That's the most abundant amino acid in our body. It's present in the retina, skeletal, and cardiac muscle tissue. It's also present in common food items such as meat and fish, and it has been estimated that the average daily human intake ranges between 40 and 400 milligrams. Taurine is associated with a variety of physiological function, including the neuromodulation and cellular membrane stability. And the synthetic taurine can be natural or synthetic, and synthetic taurine is present in large concentrations in energy drinks. Guarana is commonly known for its small berry-like fruit, which contains caffeine. And the seed contains significant amounts of caffeine. 1 gram of guarana equivalent to 40 milligrams of caffeine. And has become an increasing common natural additive to energy drinks that are present in the market. And it has been stated that the caffeine that is present in guarana is released rapidly, and which will result in increase or the cognitive performance, mental fatigue, and mode at physiology relevant dose is seen in a short period of time, and has been also been associated with inducing lipid metabolism. Now, guarana has been associated with many other physiological effects. Ginseng is present in energy drink and has been used for medical purposes for over 2,000 years. It has been said to improve the immune system and also antioxidant effects, which are associated with prevention of disease or remedy of disease or promoting of longevity. But a systemic review and meta-analysis that shown with there is insufficient evidence to have conclusive statement of the effect of ginseng on physical performance. So there is no sufficient evidence to incriminate ginseng in any of the effects associated with energy drinks. Yerba mate is another substance that's present, commonly present in energy drinks. It is present in South America. It has been used for centuries, but it is increasing in popularity globally due to its high effect on bioactive because of the bioactive components. The caffeine content of yerba mate is high. It's about 78 milligram per 8 ounce, which is almost the same as coffee. B vitamins are added, B1, B6, B12, and they are present sometimes in very high concentrations, like sometimes 24-fold the normal level or required dose of these vitamins. And they have been incorporated without any evidence of a beneficial effect for the athlete. Now, health risk associated with the consumption of energy drinks is evident, and the most important factors in this are caffeine, which can have adverse health effects in susceptible individuals. Consumers often mix alcohol and energy drinks. That's a sort of masking of the effect of alcohol, and energy drinks use appears to be associated with alcohol dependence and other drug use. So the danger of mixing alcohol and energy drinks is evident because energy drinks are very popular among young people, and when alcoholic beverages are mixed with energy drinks, a popular practice that's seen among young people, caffeine in these drinks can mask the depressant effects of alcohol. And drinkers who consume alcohol mixed with energy drinks are 3 times more likely to binge drink, to drink double or 3 times the normal as compared to those who do not mix, drinkers who do not mix them. And caffeinated alcohol beverage is a new category of beverages. Now these are alcoholic beverages that do not claim, do not have on the label that they contain caffeine, and such beverages have experienced a rapid growth in popularity, and they have been introduced in the marketplace recently. And of course, they are heavily utilized by the young. Now, there are health risks associated with each type of components of energy drinks. Caffeine has its effects: yerba mate, guarana, taurine, etc. But this slide summarizes the most important, the most common 10 side effects of energy drinks, which include palpitation or tachycardia, tremor or shaking, agitation, gastrointestinal upsets in the form of diarrhea, vomiting, etc., chest pain, sometimes mimicking heart attacks, dizziness, and sometimes seizures have been reported, paresthesia, insomnia, respiratory distress, and headache. And one, especially the young, should pay attention and read labels. There are certain regulations in different countries, but industry or the companies have overcome these regulations, and in many countries where energy drinks were banned, from marketing, they are back now and marketing in countries like Denmark or France, and that's why one should pay attention and read everything and and swap the energy drink with better alternative is the recommendation for youth. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Dr. Vidya Mohammed Ali for her presentation. Dr. Vidya is Director of Research Biomedical Laboratory in Aditopin Lab, Qatar. Please.
Okay, thanks, Costas, and thanks, everybody. It's really nice to have this last slot, because then it means you can all go home after this, so it's good stuff. So I'm going to try and make it as quick as possible and hopefully as dynamic as possible, but it's going to be difficult because I'm following a couple of excellent speakers and of course, all the morning sessions, and my pointer is not working. Guys, could you help me out? Oh, there it is. Okay, supplements, good, bad, and different. So I'm going to try and make it, oh, please do something. See, it always works in trials. Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, so that's me. The outline of the presentation, I'm going to try and do a quick definition. What are the motivations for use in athletes, in the general public? What are the good things about it? What are the bad things? What are the things that really we don't know very much about? Regulation, economics, very important, so conclusions. What's the definition? So as per the US Congress, because they've got the most comprehensive definition for this, 1994, that it's a product that's intended to be a supplement to the diet. It contains one or more dietary ingredients, things like vitamins, minerals, herbs, other botanicals, or amino acids. The list goes on. It's intended to be taken by mouth as a pill, as opposed to the drinks that my learned colleague told us about. Capsule, tablet, also as a liquid, but I'm going to try and not cover that very much at all. it has to be labeled very clearly in the front of pack as a dietary supplement. Okay. So, what determines our use? And lots of research has gone into it, and it's really demographics have a lot to do with it. Ethnicity, age, sex, education, income, all of these determine the motivation. The other one is actually attitudes, concern about deficiencies, for example, or your health status. Preventative behavior is thought to be a preventative behavior. It's thought to be treatment for certain deficiencies. So they all go on to make up your motivation, and it ends up in use. And again, the use is very different depending on the organism, the person who goes on to use it. So I'm going to try and divide it into use in athletes and say something about prevalence of use. I mean, this is all not hard and fast evidence, remember, because there's not that much research going on. Supplements seem to be used in about 85% of studies, respondents in various studies. They've been very, very small studies, 300, 400 of individuals in those kind of studies, and I only found about a handful of them with any degree of confidence. 85% of them, athletes, say they use it, and it seems to be equally common amongst men and amongst women. It usually varies by the event in which they take part. Short sprints, about 76% of them claim to actually be taking it, while 91% for the longer kind of marathon types events. Generally, they were slightly older, the users, and the reasons that the athletes gave for the use of these supplements was, one is to aid recovery from training. Significant amount of individuals claim that. To improve health, to improve performance, all the kind of things you'd expect. Prevent or treat an illness that they thought that they had, a deficiency if they had. They believed that they didn't have a balanced diet. This was always a kind of a reason that they gave. And what were the substances that were used most commonly, as you would expect? Vitamins, antioxidants, very, very popular in about 84%. Minerals, proteins, some creatine supplements, and all the kind of ergogenic supplements that we've talked about. Caffeine, of course, that was mentioned. Ephedrine, again, that's been shown. So you can see here the table showing all the kind of athletes' objectives are shown on your left, okay, and the examples of what they took is shown in the column on the other side. So you've got muscle growth and repair, proteins. You see this in Villaggio, you see this in Landmark, in all of the big shopping malls that are usually, outlets that sell vast amounts of this. There are several things that claim to be fat reduction. There are lots of supplements that are used and improve exercise metabolism or in promoting recovery. Joint health is another thing, or just general health. Immune function, all of the kind of things that we've talked about. Sorry, I'm rushing to make sure that So what about choice of supplements? And I'm only going to kind of concentrate on a few of them. So there's protein, the amino acids, caffeine, creatine, lots of things. The list goes on. Glucosamine and the CNS acting compounds. The ones that I've highlighted, I'll say a little bit more about. So what about proteins? This is the one that's sold in enormous amounts in health clubs all over the place. You see it, as I said, in these kind of GNC outlets. Very, very popular. And it's taken by, again, most individuals. It's seen as something that you really require when you're increasing your training, especially your hard training. Recommended intake is something like 40 to 100% greater. But most athletes who are training feel that they actually need several fold higher rather than the 50% to 100% greater than in the sedentary controls. Very high protein levels, intakes. When you want to choose it in your diet, it's really difficult to do in the absence of fat. That's the whole thing. That dietary intake of protein without fat is actually not very palatable. And it also requires you to have a decent knowledge of food composition, which most athletes don't do, especially if they don't have a nutritional scientist with them. So it's important to take these high supplements of protein just before or just after a bout of training. with the aim really to promote adaptations that take place in response to the training stimulus. Lots of these are done as kind of milkshakes, milk-based protein shakes, and they really have become very, very popular. Again, I haven't put up any references, mainly because the evidence for all of this is quite scarce. Okay? Amino acids, very, very popular. The ones that are, the branch-chain amino acids, things like leucine, valine, isoleucine, may have an influence on the synthesis and release of serotonin. So they have a kind of centrally acting effect. There are lots of them that have been chosen just because of that, because they act as precursors for your neurotransmitters. So they're thought to make you feel good. So the same applies to tyrosine, to phenylalanine. Both the L and the D forms of it are essential for this. But whether they actually do this when you use them as supplements is really anybody's guess, because there's very little to support that you kind of ingest it in a tablet form, and this is what it does. Okay. Caffeine, I'm not going to stay very long with this because it's been excellently covered by the previous speaker. There's been a long, long history of its use going back to the ancient Greeks. Yet another thing we can blame the Greeks for. It's a stimulant. The International Olympic Committee certainly classified caffeine as a controlled substance, and then difficult to ban it outright because it's not very practical. There are lots of people like me who are very addicted to it. So the threshold level was set at 12 micrograms per mil, I think, or mgs per mil, I can't remember. Okay, this limitation was then removed in 2004. And then there's been since then, there's been an increased interest in caffeine, perhaps as a stimulant by athletes. What it affects, really, for somebody like me, really, its interest is fatty acid mobilization. It's actually hydrolysis of your fat, leading to glycogen sparing. And also, of course, its central effect. The perception of fatigue seems to be reduced when you drink it. Beneficial effect on performance certainly can be achieved not just at the kind of levels that we talked about, but not even at the levels that Red Bull achieves. You can do it at much, much lower levels. And there are some individuals who are far more sensitive to it than others. Adverse effect, again, I can do a rush through this. Large number of unwanted side effects. I think we're just on the surface, we really haven't done enough research to do this, and especially amongst the young, the effects that it has, I think, is something that we should take on board and do more research on. All of this has been mentioned previously, and what the very high doses do or the very low doses do is something we don't know. I mean, I just want to bring to you the cardiac effects are something that has been very little looked at, especially in the young, and I think that more and more attention should be paid to that. Lots of interest in the central nervous system and things that stimulate the central nervous system in terms of making you motivated to go out and perform competitively. So apart from caffeine, there's certainly lots of other products, herbal products, that have been had some amount of impact, other than the amino acids I mentioned already. They certainly sold with claims of benefit to various things like alertness, memory, mood, etc. St. John's wort, very, very popular, especially back in the UK, but not just in the UK, it's globally. It's the most widely and biggest selling herbal product that's used as a supplement. There are other things like kava, which has been shown to have terrible effects on the liver, and it's actually now been banned. What about the supplement use in the general population? That's all in athletes. We know, and most of us use or have used almost in every stage, starting from pregnancy to the childbirth, beyond that in your young adulthood, and then later right through to the lean, mean fighting machine right over there, the very end. Now there's an enormous interest in supplements. We actually don't have anything as a weight-reducing stimulant on the market as a tablet, because almost every one of them, rimonaband, I'm trying to think, any one of the things, sibutramine, any of those have all been withdrawn from the market. So supplements have really started cornering the market and claiming all sorts of things, and unfortunately they can as stimulants for weight reduction. And the effects at best is probably with orlistat, which is about 2 to 5%, and even that not sustained. I think the only thing that's really good for weight loss is keep your mouth shut. Don't put the next spoon in. Okay? So what are the adverse effects of all of this? You know, the stimulant market. In 2008 to 2010, there was quite a nice study done, and they reported about 1,000 adverse events related to dietary supplements, but none of them were actually reported to the FDA. They all came through poison centers. So people go there, and then the medics involved are supposed to report back to the FDA. It's almost never done. So the FDA very seldom gets to hear about it. What do the patients mostly come there for? And it's found psychiatric hospitalization, kidney failure, and especially associated with these kind of weight loss dietary supplements. Okay. In 2008, there's also been 2 big studies that suggested that at least about 200 people suffered from selenium poisoning from a brand of multivitamin. And in 2011, the Department of Defense actually removed a workout supplement, one of these bodybuilding supplements, from all their military bases because they found to contain a very powerful stimulant, DMAA, in that. And it actually went to court because there were 3 deaths associated with that. And I mean, it kind of hung around for about 2 years, and I think it kind of didn't reach anything, any kind of definite causative thing with DMAA, and that's part of the problem with these things. Okay, indifferent, almost anything. I mean, I think 1 to 5% probably of the supplements that are out there truly have a beneficial effect, if that. So to the majority of the supplements you take it because you think it makes you feel good, and perhaps that's good enough as long as there is no adverse effect. There's a total lack of randomized control trials in this area. So, however, as being kind of, let's try and be fair, no evidence does not mean no effect. It means we need to go out and look at this. You know, it's a big market. And also remembering it's not just us popping a supplement pill. All animal feeds actually contain, whether it's your pet chicken or your pet dog or your horse or cows, everything has actually all these multivitamin supplements in their diet. What are the doping risks? Coming back to why we are here, I'll speak a little bit faster. Okay, 15% of all supplements purchased certainly contain varying levels of this. Products have been found to contain vast amounts of anabolic steroids. There are also products that have these new designer steroids without really telling you anything very much, mainly because they're often manufactured in the same production line as are, several of these steroids. So you get cross-contamination of these vitamins with these steroids. So protect athletes from any kind of inadvertent doping, we need to establish some kind of database of all the low-risk supplements. And this has certainly been done in the Netherlands and Germany, and perhaps it needs to be extended out to more countries. Athletes are certainly advised to seek assurances before they take any of these. What about FDA regulation? Very, very poor. You can almost market anything as long as you show that it has a health benefit. So that's the health claim. You can also say it's a supplement because it has a nutrient claim. It's part of a nutritional package. Or you can say it has some kind of structure function. It actually reduces risk. So overall, why is this such a big thing? Here are your numbers. There's always a gain to be had. In the US, most of this economic stuff comes from the US. 22.5 billion in direct sales of supplements in 1 year. So that's a huge industry. And then if you look at the overall contribution, it's not just, the number of people it employs, the kind of indirect labor income that it gets. It's about 500,000 people are involved in this industry in the US alone. So it's an enormous, enormous lobby. And the industry itself is different. Big pharma is regulatable. You give them a product, they have to show you through all the clinical trials you asked earlier about, so you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you have to show its supplement, its chemical formulation. But none of that is true. If you have a garage in your backyard, you can actually set up a supplement industry. It's very much harder to, and it means more people are in there actually voting for you if you have a thing. So in conclusion, some supplements and sports foods may have benefit under certain circumstances. However, use only after consultation with a qualified and accredited dietitian. Not all athletes, not all people. Make good food choices, unfortunately. And if you're resistant to changing your dietary habits, and most of us are, it may well be that it's easier to just supplement it with multivitamins, broad spectrum, low dose multivitamins, mineral all of these kind of supplements may actually meet your needs, but only if you have a deficiency. In general, they're only and ever used if you can show by blood analysis that you have a deficiency. And even that, in the short term, not for you to kind of carry on without any, medical supervision forever. Supplements, really important with prohibited substances, anything that's contaminated with prohibited substances. If an athlete tests positive for a banned substance and then says it's because of the dietary supplement, unbeknownst to him, it's not accepted as a valid defense. So, not a substitute for pure diet, a good diet. That's the whole thing. Or a sedentary lifestyle. Popping a pill. Very, very attractive, magic bullet. But I don't think we're there yet. So get out there in the park, wonderful park outside, run back to your work, whatever it is, and eat less. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Vidya, for your data. Do you have any questions?
I'll ask a question.
Yes, please.
I work in Aspetar. I work in Aspetar, and a lot of the medical staff working out in the clubs sort of want to use supplements, and they come to us at Aspetar going, oh, but can't I have some vitamin C, or and it's really difficult to know how to approach that. But exactly what you said is, do you have a deficiency? Is it proven? But it's sort of like a given that they need to have it. They want to pop a pill with and it's not just the medical, but it's actually the athletes themselves, or the clubs, or the administration. And to me, it seems like an education thing as much as anything. So, how would you respond to that?
I think your answer is pretty much there. Yeah. This is it. I mean, I think there has to be a much more wide-spanning education system where you say, okay, we all assume popping a vitamin pill is the best thing you can do. You can do it when you're going through a pregnancy and you really need it, or you're going through some kind of, where it's proven to be there's a deficiency, but other than that. But I think the lobby is very, very strong. Yes. And they get to the clubs, and they get to the coaches, and they get to everybody. And I mean, that's what was really, yeah. So when your coach is telling you, or when your colleagues are telling you, or your club is telling you, then it's difficult to. So.
Thank you very much for your attendance. Please, sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you for your nice and very good presentation, Dr. Muhammad Ali. I have one question. In the athletes, especially professional athletes, I have several of them in Iranian weightlifting. They got a gold medal in London Olympic Games. For example, Mr. Behdad Salimi. When I asked him, what are you doing during your training? He said that every day my training is between 30 and 40,000 kilogram iron. I took that Scott and come down 30 and 40,000 kilogram. And he said that if I use the food, I need 8,000 calories per day. And it's mean that 3 or 4 kilogram food. you cannot digest in the stomach. That means that a lot of athletes in marathon running, in judo, in every other sports, they really need supplement. And it is, we all believe that all professional athletes, more than 90%, they need supplement. But my question is, the problem is some of these supplements, as you know, they have hormones, and when we check them, FDA approved, for example, health minister approved, and some laboratory approved, it is okay. But still, when they use this supplement, their doping test is positive. As the Dr. Oliver Robin said that. What is your suggestion for this kind of athletes? What they do? They exactly need supplement, but they are scared to use that.
As I mentioned, in the Netherlands and Germany, they've already started producing labels as trademarks of supplements that are acceptable, where they've tested it and they know that they're low. And we need to do that almost for every country, I think. Olivier, I think you can probably answer this one.
Yes, I mean, Dr. Pokazemi, there are different levels to your question. The first one, is there a need for dietary supplements? And all the sport physiologists agree to say no. It's not systematic. It's been said you need to have a deficiency that is well recorded, well documented to see a benefit. People who eat a lot, by definition, will probably receive more nutrients than they need. I mean, minerals or vitamins, I mean, you name it. If you eat a lot of food and balanced diet, it's very, very likely that you are going to cover more than your needs for these vitamins and nutrients. The second thing is about the certification. There are today some programs out there to certify dietary supplements. Not all of them are necessarily needed because there are some very serious manufacturers. In particular, we know some big companies, very reputable companies that market some dietary supplements and do the quality control that you find in the pharmaceutical industry to dietary supplements. So they are considered to be much more reliable than other products. And the issue today, and we said that many times at WADA, because in 2005, 2006, WADA was involved in a process of discussions about dietary supplements, including with the manufacturers. And it's clear that this is a responsibility of the manufacturers to produce quality products and not to spike them, taint them, adulterate these products with prohibited substances, because this is what is going on. We have to be aware of, on some markets, these products are spiked on purpose with prohibited substances. I mean, this is why some of these products are promoted to be efficient. It's because they are spiked with medicines, put it this way. I'm currently contributing to a US Pharmacopoeia group of experts that demonstrate this very clearly. You've got a market out there for these products. Now, the answer to this is something we also mentioned at WADA, is better regulation in different countries. You have to have tighter regulations. I mean, many people consider that the US regulation is a disaster for this, and probably that could be debated, but that's a reality because it allows all products to get into the market, including, and we've seen this in sport, with the DMAA that was mentioned, what we call also methylhexanamine, that was presented as a natural product coming from geranium oil. Geranium oil does not contain methylhexanamine or DMAA. We've proven this. I mean, that's very clear. So you have to be aware, and that was very well mentioned in Dr. Mohammed Ali's presentation, you've got a huge market behind this. And what these people are doing is simply selling products and taking money from the people who believe they may not have a balanced diet, which for most people is wrong, and certainly promoting this to the athletes, giving them the impression that there is may have a deficiency and they may benefit from dietary supplements. In the vast majority of cases, this is wrong, unfortunately. So the only message we can deliver to the athletes, healthy diet, balanced diet is going to provide you anything you need. Taking dietary supplements is taking a risk. in particular when you're an athlete or anybody else, but in particular when you're an athlete because you're tested, then it means you're taking a risk, and the anti-doping system will not take this as an excuse. So today, for some athletes, unless they receive, and if that's their choice, that's probably limited risk, but unless they receive a well-controlled product, they are taking more risk than they receive benefit from taking dietary supplements.
Thank you, Vidya, for an eye-opening presentation on this one. My question to you is that you've made it clear throughout your presentation the resources for the information and the studies are extremely limited. On the other hand, you also made it in a few of your slides, the economic factor and the market for the supplements, which is a huge. And the third element in this one, we are at an internet information age, where information is available, where people would go and publish information much easier than before, and the information will reach bigger audience than ever before. Why isn't there a lot of studies on this and research to prove that at best it's indifferent? And you know, and if there's any benefit, it would be like, as you said, 4 to 5%, maybe. A lot of underlines in there, maybe. Why isn't there a lot of studies?
Earlier and restrict how it's produced, what are these produced, under what manufacturing conditions are they produced, then you have maybe 600 products. Then you can do the kind of research that, you know, or maybe, again, it has to come at the governmental level, it has to come at the legal level, and you actually restrict those entering the market, rather than allow them to enter the market and then start saying we need to test them, because that's not how drugs are done. You test it before they get on the market. And the idea of then looking at the internet and assuming that the internet is telling the truth and it's, you know, peer-reviewed, not at all. I mean, I can put stuff up because I'm producing something that will make you 10 years younger if you take it for 2 weeks. I wish. No, we don't. But I can put that up. I can write a decent report and I can put it on the net.
To restrict them, you need to study them and show a proof of their effect, which is the question. It is not there. You have already big companies that is producing. You have GNC, you have big names. Why no one goes there, pick up few tablets of them, check it out, and then spread the news? And then you have a case that you can actually take to the government. But if you have no studies and nothing to prove,
I think the lobby,
what kind of case?
I agree, and that's why I said no evidence doesn't mean that they're ineffectual or they're bad. We still need to generate evidence. We are in that stage.
Why there is no study?
I think because, again, when a new drug comes on the market, it's been tested extensively. The government insists they're tested extensively. When a new supplement comes on the market, there is no such government requirement. It doesn't have to pass anything.
Scientific community to do it.
Mate, the scientific community is not there to do this. You know, if I can make...
Yeah, it's a matter of regulation. I mean, today the regulation is exactly what Vidya said. The regulation allows people to put products on the market, dietary supplements on the market, without any study. And the way it works, I mean, two things. First of all, you've got a lot of science being generated around the world, and sometimes you've got some plant extracts that are shown to have an effect on some cells. And all of a sudden, you will find somewhere in the world somebody who's going to make a product based on the plant extract, telling you, you know, this is going to protect your cells. There's been a wonderful example recently with telomerase inhibitors. When you find some telomerase inhibitors in some dietary supplements, you don't even know whether it works or if it doesn't work. So that illustrates, you know, the way it works. The second thing is human nature. People want to believe, and people believe dietary supplements because they are labeled as dietary supplements, and natural supplements are safe. This is completely wrong. That's a misperception. But the industry has an interest of selling these products to the people, telling them no risk, natural, full benefit for you.
Well, hopefully one day someone will step up and make a study that shows
But they do.
this is false.
Some people die today of using dietary supplements.
Yes,
And this is why there is a movement in the US now to change the regulation, because they went too far. I mean, everybody agrees on this. But the regulation is harder to change because of all the economical interests behind the food supplement industry.
Last year alone, it was something like 22 billion in direct sales just in the US. So this is a huge incentive for the FDA to be very lax on it.
Can I say something? Can I add? I'm sorry, here. Yes. Supplements themselves are not very harmful unless you abuse them. And people do abuse them, and they don't even eat their food right. They take supplements to them. I'll take the supplements and stop the food, and I can do, for example, weight maintenance, and it doesn't work. Some of the supplements, you just lose them. If you take what you need, and the rest you just lose it. And the body, the bioavailability is not the same when you take a supplement. So the abuse itself is harmful. For example, people don't know that vitamin A is really dangerous if you abuse it. They don't know. To them, vitamin A is just like vitamin B, vitamin D, or anything else. It's the abuse itself to the supplements. And they're not tested because they're not drugs. They're supplements. They're just like having fruits, but in a pill. So people don't have that conception about it. It grew to that.
Why there is no studies?
There are studies.
Okay, this is not the question.
I think there are studies, but they're inadequate. There are, or insufficient, not inadequate. They're insufficient, and it's a discussion. And really, you know, a further comment to what you just said, Anoud, is that yes, supplements themselves, but some of them can, depending on how they've been manufactured. Yes, and the industry is not as well regulated, and therefore you can have cottage industries, as I showed before, and there are papers certainly showing this, that if you use the same plant that was then used to manufacture something else, pesticides, or manufacture other things, and all of these, there's evidence for this, then it's not safe. You know, it really depends. So nobody's regulating the purity of the supplement on the market.
Thank you very much. So it was a very good comment, your last sentence. And just from our National Anti-Doping Agency in Germany, so we know about these problems, and we cannot refrain athletes from taking the supplements. We do not recommend it, but we try to help them to be a little bit more on the safe side. And therefore we have the so-called Cologne list, where those manufacturers test time by time charges of their supplements, and we have created together with the Olympic training site an app for the smartphones where the athletes can have a look to those products which may be a little bit more safe than others. This is never 100% guarantee that they are drug-free or without any health risk. This is only to help them, because we know that's a huge problem. You showed samples and the numbers that more than 80% take those nutritional supplements, and it takes a long time maybe to demonstrate that's not necessary in their dietary, but in between, I guess we need to help them to find maybe the more safe products.
I mean, that's why Germany and Netherlands certainly seem to do this, at least help people who are going to take them, to make sure that you've got, like you say, you know, a register where they can just quickly look through and say, okay, these supplements are good from this manufacturer or not, because they've been tested.
And it is quite for me it was quite surprising to supplement what Andrea said, looking at the positive case in the last Olympic Games in Sochi, seeing an athlete from Germany to be a positive case based on a food supplement. And one can imagine that if in Germany with such an infrastructure and such a control happens this, what can happen in the rest part of the world? So it's actually is a very important problem, and probably it needs, as you said, it needs some restrictions to the circulation, because fighting the education with the education is not enough, since advertisements are so strong and the companies are spending so much money for advertising. So if there is no other comment or question, I could conclude this session, and I would like to invite sorry, Makoto. It's okay. No, it's not okay, but but if you stay alone at the end, you will realize it.
Because nobody mentioned about the status of creatine. I want to get the opinion, because if I understand correctly, creatine is intentionally applied to the athlete in some country, but not in other countries. And recently, cosmetic company in Japan, Shiseido, has published new paper on the growth effect of adenosine. And according to the peer-reviewed journal, a topic on the peer-reviewed journals, after application of adenosine, so gene expression of hair root increased 20%. Then there are some people, some sports people asked me for advice, but my comment was just like Olivier Laban. But I see a relationship between creatine and adenosine, because creatine stimulates regeneration of ATP, and so indirectly, so adenosine is able to stimulate the growth of hair. But therefore, I need a comment of the specialist.
Okay. Olivier, are you going to be the specialist? This is a good trick.
If you want me to be, I will be, but...
No effect, because the result was not expressed as a concentration, but gene expression.
Yes, but yeah, the question is that, first of all, nobody, as far as I'm aware, is deficient in creatine. I mean, all of us, I mean, as far as I know, there is no deficiency in creatine. Most people eating meat will receive natural creatine. If you take a steak of about 200 grams, you are going to receive about 1 gram of creatine. Which is the dose that most people would use as a kind of maintenance dose. Now, there's been a lot of debate, as you know, around creatine, and you've said in Makoto, it's because in many countries creatine was not accepted, was not sold, and was not a product available. It's been used by many other countries. We looked into this at WADA quite a lot. The elements related to enhancements of performance are not that strong. I mean, it's very specific to certain type of exercise, not all form of exercise. It's one of the examples where, as I said, you cannot be deficient in creatine. So, I mean, you can absorb it by different foodstuff, in particular meat, of course. So all these elements led us to conclude that there was no real concern about this product. Now, two things. The first one, taking creatine by the bucket could be, and I know some people who are into sports and psychologists in particular consider that could be a conduct at risk of moving from just swallowing creatine to swallowing something else. I'm not aware there's been any study in that field. Now, coming more specifically to your point, I'm not necessarily aware of any competition of hair growth, but if there is in the future, I'll be happy to consider you for doping.
I mean, it also, I think it depends on the evidence and what the platform of the evidence was generated from. You know, I'm sure if I gave some of this to my colleague Mohammed Al-Rais and he puts it on his stem cells, you know, that he's generating, and it might get some amazing results. And you can put that out either in the web or in a really good peer-reviewed journal. That doesn't immediately translate to whole body physiology. That's the big problem, that we do work. It's not that we don't do, you know, the research, but you have to do all strands of it. You do it at the cellular level, at the small animal level, then right through to human, you know, integrative physiology. And that's just the jointed thinking is not there. And yeah, I hope it does work on hair. And I think then we should move away from anti-doping and go into solving baldness. I mean, I think women in us, yeah.
Thank you very much for this nice discussion. I would like to invite Dr. Mohammed to offer the gifts to our speakers.
Really? I work in RDL, so I don't.
Thank you very much for your attendance.